Thanks for your patience. I still don't know quite how to see your comments on Facebook. Ah, there we go. All right, I am so excited. We're going to be talking about narcissism and attachment style. I know that's one of the things that really messes a lot of people up. It's easy for people to think that attachment style, that because a narcissist are um, that because narcissists are play games, they don't like to hang around. They just kind of create all sorts of, this in and out feeling. The fact that you can't kind of capture them, you end up thinking, well, they have to be avoidant. So even like, what does it even mean to be avoidant? Um, we need to like start there first. How many of you guys are familiar with attachment styles? I mean, have you heard? If you are, you'll know words like secure, anxiously attached, avoidantly attached, and fearful avoidant attached. Those are the common attachment styles that people have when we talk about attachment styles. Oh, I see that I'm not completely live on Facebook, which is really frustrating. Post more details on Facebook. Sorry, I'm trying to go live on multiple sites, and I've never done this before, So I apologize for those of you who are joining me and trying to follow me. And let's see. Edit post details. And the other thing is my microphone's in my way, so that makes typing really hard. So I'd love to hang out with you guys today to kind of talk about more. Are all narcissists avoidant? I wish I'd kind of prepped this. All right, so I got that. All right, I finally am live on Facebook. I have never done Facebook Live before in my life, so it is hard. Somebody said, brave for you to try. I mean, geez, this is, I thought I had it all set up, ready to go. I pushed the button and nothing happens, which is why I'm now a half an hour late. And I'm really sorry about that. I always try to go live at 4:00 next week. I know better. I think I've got this handled down a little bit better. And I just paid for a service that I may not be using and may be asking for a refund. So we'll see how that all goes. But anyway, okay, attachment styles. So how many of you guys are familiar with attachment styles? I'm going to let's go back from the, great. I'm on YouTube. Thank you, Meryl, for letting me know that I'm there. You guys can see me. So attachment styles, which is one of the things I find fascinating, I really like attachment styles, is that it is based in real life examples. It came out of research after World War I and II. They found that infants in these big, huge orphanages weren't living, that there was this high rate of infection, and that's where the word of failure to thrive came from. They found that some infants were losing weight and sickly, they just couldn't survive. But interestingly, infants that were being picked up and held, in other words, the ones that were the nurses' favorites, were the ones that were surviving. And so out of this, they came this whole big research. And that's where you hear the names like Bowlby is one of the big researchers. Ainsworth was another really big researcher. If you like to read a fantastic book on this topic, the one that I love, and don't be daunted by the size. I hate to tell you, it's thick. It's really big. It's called Becoming Attached. Becoming Attached. And it's written by Dr. Robert Karen, Keren, like the girl's name, Robert Karen. And he walks through the whole idea of attachment. He kind of tells you the story of how attachment theory developed, what it's rooted in. And then he also he tells, I'm having a moment. I just heard, I know this is like one of those squirrel moments. I just heard that in some countries, when you say rooted in something, that it actually is a dirty word. And in America, it's not a dirty word. So if anybody is here, I think from Australia, and I just used a dirty word for you, I am sorry. I'm sorry, I lived in Mexico, and there is a word that South America uses that Mexico has on its list as a dirty word. So a South American would say it's the word to choose. And whenever you say the word to choose in South America, you're actually swearing in Mexico. Isn't that wild while we do that? Yeah, yeah. Francis is called Becoming Attached by Robert Karen. So it's it's a fascinating theory. What they started to do is they did these series of research on infants in various settings. Like one of them was they had them walk over a glass height, like an elevated height. It was secure, they couldn't fall off, but it looked like you could fall off. I mean, it gave you the visual image of that there is nothing below you, like you might fall off. And then they encouraged the infants to walk across and they watched how the infants handled it. Another one was called the stranger situation, where the mom left the room and a stranger entered the room, and then the mom came back in the room. And again, they watched what the infants did. And what they noticed was that there were four types of people, four types of babies. There are the babies who weren't happy the mom was leaving the room, kind of fussed. Then when she left, they kind of got themselves together, collected themselves. When she came back in, they kind of like went over to her, sought out her a comfort. Once they got a good enough comfort, then they went on their way. And they called that group secure, securely attached. They were able to be reassured. They felt okay after the event was over. Then they found another group was they clung to their mom. They didn't want to leave the room, leave her to explore. They really like hung by her. And then when she left, they were distraught. They just stared at the door and screamed and was just all upset. When she came back in the room, they clutched at her again, sort of really upset and was fearful she might leave again. And obviously, that group sounds anxiously attached. They had this sense of needing this reassurance, this kind of this overly insecure about their mom's availability and about the fact that she's going to be present. And so they really stuck to her really, really closely. Then there was this other group where they kind of like explored the room. They sort of ignored mom. Mom left the room. They kind of went on the business as if mom had never been there. And then when she came back in, they may either have kind of pouted or got upset, or they may have, like actually got angry with her. But they called that group withdrawn, the avoidant group. That was the group that they saw as like they've gave up on mom. They've withdrawn from mom, and by the way, I'm using mom. I know that's like, wow, doesn't dad count? Well, I'm talking about the primary caretaker. And remember, this research happened right after World War I and II. So at those days, dad would have been working and mom would have been home. That's why I'm using mom. In the research, it was the mother, but I don't think it applies to moms. It applies to the primary caregiver. But anyway, so they kind of acted like the primary caregiver was optional. They didn't have this strong connection. It's like they gave up on the primary caregiver. And then there was one more group, and that group they called disorganized, but now we call them fearful attachment or fearful avoidant. That's it, fearful avoidant. That group is where mom, they kind of like, I'm trying to figure out what it would look like when one of these situations. It's the group that kind of acted like they didn't know if they could trust the caregiver's presence. Like like they were sometimes avoidant and sometimes not avoidant. They'd come back and forth. It's as if they knew their caregiver was really an inconsistent person and they really didn't have a lot of trust in this person. So they saw that group as actually the most concerning group because they kind of were hyper independent and really like when you'd think the avoidant group would be, but they're not. The group that was the most hyper independent was the disorganized or the fearful avoidant. So how does this connect to narcissism? Well, one of the things that I get concerned about on these platforms is that we tend to think about things in all or nothing terms. We like to believe that something really explains everything and everybody, but really it doesn't. So somebody just recently asked, one of my friends says, don't you think all narcissists are avoidantly attached? The answer is actually no, they're not. Not all narcissists are avoidantly attached. I've known narcissists who are anxiously attached. There are a lot of narcissists who are fearfully avoidant attached. And yes, there are a considerable amount who are also avoidantly attached. I think the question we have, and Leah, you're like, what on earth are you talking about? Well, we're talking about the connection between attachment styles and narcissism. Here's the big thing. Here's the underlying thing to all of this. We really want to make sense of narcissism. We want to make sense of our partners who have narcissistic traits, or at least you think they do. You're assuming they do. And you'd like to unlock what's going on with this individual so that it makes more sense why they do what they do when they do it. I mean, that I know when I was in my toxic relationship, I really wanted to understand my partner so that I could fix it. Like if I could create a sense of understanding that what the wounding was, is this person anxious and scared and they're thinking I'm going to flake out on them? Well, then I'll just really super show up for them. Or is this a person who's fearful of connection and so every time I get close, they get freaked out and pull back? Well, then I'll be very more careful about how I do that so I don't freak them out. You see what I'm saying? I was trying to, oh, I'm sorry, Lee, you're just responding to somebody else. I was trying to show up in a way that I thought would make the relationship as healthy as possible and trying to figure out what was going on. And I see a lot of us on social media doing the same thing, that we really want to make sense of it. So if we say, oh, all narcissists are avoidant, then we'll just moderate ourselves and become less intense. We'll ask less. We won't push them for more. We'll give them space. We'll understand when they're withdrawn, all this thing to make sense of it. But here's the thing. I'm having this radical, like, aha mind shift. One of my club members, and if you guys don't know, I have a toxic free relationship club. There's 2 tiers to it, a community level and a club level. And the club level, you get online support from me each week as a group. So we do book clubs together. And right now we're working through the book called The Gift of Fear. And we're planning to go into our next book. And we've been tossing out ideas. And one of my club members asked, hey, why don't we read George Simon? Now, I had not heard of George Simon before. I put a recent video out about him. So you may have all been introduced to him with me. But he actually is deceased now, but he's a psychologist who operated in the realm of character disturbances. In other words, he really devoted his life to understanding cluster B personality disorders, particularly the more antagonistic ones like narcissism and antisocial personality disorder. He wrote 2 books that have to do with this, maybe even more, but the 2 that I'm the most familiar with is, the first is called In Sheep's Clothing, which I'm halfway through, and then the second one's called Character Disturbance. So again, his name is George Simon, and he wrote 2 books that really apply to this arena. The first is In Sheep's Clothing, and the second is called Character Disturbance. Now, this is what he says. I think it makes sense. I know if you go out to all the personality theorists in the world and ask them what they think about this topic, they're going to I don't know. Some will agree, some won't agree. But I think this guy nailed it. He proposed, because he's deceased, he proposed that we toss out the understanding of narcissism from the perspective of neuroticism. What do I mean by that? All of us up to now have viewed narcissism as a shame-based, trauma-based problem. Now, I know that I have told you many times over, and I've gotten it from experts, like Gregory Lester is one of them, who says, no, it's a biosocial problem. Narcissists aren't just made based on home environment. They are biologically wired that way, and then they have environmental losses and deficits. It's a combination of both. Yes, I agree. It's a combination of both. But the reason we feel sorry for them and feel like they're fixable is because we root it in the understanding, I use that word again, sorry, Australia. We root it in the understanding of trauma, of that they're managing shame like everybody else is, and that if we can somehow address the shame, not make them feel bad, help them overcome their uncomfortableness, then they'll become healthy people. He says, no, that's not true. That there's actually 2 groups of people. There's one group of people who are rooted in shame. That's you and I. We don't like to feel called out. We feel embarrassed. If somebody makes a comment or a slur, we feel ashamed, and we need to do something about it. So we start to feel better. We're shame-based, and we're trying to avoid shame-based. And as a result, we have a conscience. So when we do something wrong, it makes us feel uncomfortable. Like if someone calls you out and says you hurt their feelings, you stepped on their toe in some way, you generally want to make it better. You'd like to kind of find a way to walk it back so that you don't feel uncomfortable about yourself, that you would do that, but also you don't want them to think that about you either. So you do all this work to manage your shame and your feelings of guilt over those situations. He says, what if there is another group of humans who don't feel that way at all? What if there's a group of humans who their problem isn't managing shame? In fact, they don't really have much of a conscience. And I know you all say that. Hey, how can they do these really awful things? Why do they not feel embarrassed or uncomfortable about going after things that they shouldn't have any right to go after? How can they step into another relationship knowing that I'm devastated, that we've built our life together, that our family is devastated, and then tear all that apart? How can any of that be okay? That's how can they do that? Well, George Simon says, well, it's because they have a problem with self restraint. They don't have a problem with conscience and guilt and shame like you do. They have a problem with self restraint. So, in their minds, because the world they live in is one of all about winners and losers, they then they're pursuing coming out on top, and they'll do whatever they can to come out on top. And even getting into a relationship with you, you're weak for wanting a relationship with them in their mind. Have you noticed how it shifts from love bombing to devaluation once the commitment's made? It's like almost like overnight a switch has been flipped. You literally go from, oh, I love you, I want you, the best thing ever, I've never felt like this with anybody before, to who are you and why are you in my life? And I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. Have you noticed that shift? I certainly experienced that shift. And the shift is because once they got you to commit, they won. And you were dumb for letting them win. So now they don't respect you because they would never have let you have that kind of vulnerability with them. They're never in any way giving into anything that you want. They're just so the fact that you're willing to get into this relationship on their terms and trying all this work to make it all this hard work to make it work, they're like, huh, well, I don't get it because I would never be that vulnerable because I'm all about winning. And I can't understand why you would take that kind of risk. I would never take that kind of risk. And they don't take that kind of risk. They pursue to win, 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 win. It's all about getting whatever they can get when they want it at the moment they want it. That's why they don't say no to anything. They say yes to everything. Yes, let's spend money I don't have. Yes, let's have as many relationships that I can have as possible that I can have. And I don't care that I have to lie or cheat or deceive or gaslight in order to do that. Because in their mind it's always a yes. If I want it, I get it. I pursue it. If I'm going to overdrink tonight, I'm going to overdrink tonight. If I'm going to, spend through the savings of my kids' college, I'll do it. If that means that when I leave here, I'm dissing the family and not supporting my kids because I want a new relationship with someone else, I will do it. It's all about a lack of self-restraint. So it comes back to when we try to understand them from this attachment theory, we're giving them a lot of credit. We're assuming this broken connection with parents that may have never really actually been there. Because here's the funny part. Let's just take the trauma-based theory of narcissism. If trauma caused narcissism, then you should see a really high rate of narcissism because the amount of traumatized people in the world is over 80%. But yet narcissism is only running between 4 to 7% of the population. Well, make that make sense. That would be a very poor correlation. There's no correlation. So when we say, oh, they had a bad, no, this is a predatory person who knows the fact that telling you a sob story makes you feel sorry for them and it gives them advantage. So you're more likely to trust them and to give them the information and get into kind of relationship they want with you. Telling you that works. That's why they tell it to you. It's not because it actually is true or actually bothered them. I'm not saying their stories are not sometimes it have some truth to them. I know that mine had a horrible childhood. And he told it to me. His siblings told the same thing to me. I met his mom. His mom told me that she wasn't a great mom and a bit about his father. It was all true. What he said was true. But do you think that actually shaped him and made that back then had any impact on why he would be a serial cheater today and felt he had a right to whatever money or access he could get and why he was an extremely predatory person? No, it wasn't his bad past. He was just using his bad past in order to get an advantage with people who are soft-hearted like me. And he knew it would work. He knew as a therapist, you tell a therapist that, like, oh, well, tell me more about that bad relationship with your mother. It worked. So that's why you used it. It's called instrumental empathy. And instrumental, yeah. So when you hear the word instrumental, that's a bad word in psychology. That means it's being utilized like a weapon. It's becoming a tool in their hand to get them ahead. So they weaponize their past, they weaponize your sympathy, they weaponize their ability to get in your head and figure out what you want, and they weaponize our understanding of people having problems is related to some shame-based thing, some guilt thing. They weaponize that too. It's wild. I think George Simon is onto something. I would love to know what you think. I see some of you guys are commenting about this and saying, yeah, it really it makes, when I've been reading In Sheep's Clothing, it was like lights were going off, doorbells were going off. I mean, I was astonished. It was incredible. So I highly it. By the way, it's a short book, and when you listen to it in Audible, it's like 4.5 hours long. So it's very short, easy to get through, and it gets into extremely deep stuff. He breaks it down by types of aggression, types of predator, types of character disturbances, and then it goes way more in depth in character disturbance, which I plan to read next. Yeah, I agree with you, Leah. I think he was way ahead of his time. And I do think he said Freud hurt us. Freud's theory, which I have to tell you, when I went through graduate school, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a retired psychologist. When I went through graduate school, the name of the book is In Sheep's Clothing, and the name of the author is George Simon. Graduate school, the theory of psychology is based on Freud. Now, we tossed out a lot of what he said. We don't think everything has to do with sex these days, but we use his basis of the understanding of the unconscious from him. So he talks about the id, the superego, and the ego. Well, the superego is that we're rooted in shame and guilt. So he's saying your structure is that you got one part of you that wants what it wants when it wants it. That's the id. And there's another part of you that's trying to say, no, it's the controlling parent part of you. It's called the superego. And then you got the ego that stands in the center and tries to modulate both. He says, when we created that structure and said it's true for everybody, we injured our understanding of toxic and dangerous people, because then we give them credit and we try to understand them and we try to help overcome their shame that they seemingly have. I'll tell you, I discovered, especially when I was leaving, that my ex, there was no shame. I mean, the things that he asked for when we were breaking up that were clearly I brought to the table belonged to me and my children, and he felt he had a right to it. I would be tremendously ashamed to ever even said one little bit of that. And he felt like he was swaggering entitled, pissed off if he didn't get it. I know you guys have seen the same behavior in your partners or your family or friends or coworkers too, that they walk into these situations and believe that they're owed all of this ridiculous stuff that if you could never ask for, because you know that would make you feel so uncomfortable, so embarrassed to think that you should have a right to it. You would never even proceed with it. Or what they do to their kids. I mean, I thank goodness didn't have, I mean, I was in my 50s when I got into the relationship with this guy, so I didn't have any kids with him, but the things that you guys tell me and that my friends are going through with their children are horrifying. What parent does these things? Not anybody who loves anybody. So thank you so much for that gift. I appreciate it. So that theory to me is a powerful theory. I think that it's going to can't say that word, radicalize. There it is. Radicalize how I perceive and understand narcissism. But I really want to encourage you to do that too. And it is interactive. The problem is I'm doing a lot of talking, so I'm not reading every comment that's coming through. But yeah, I'm glad you're here and that you're new here. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy, by the way. For those of you who don't know who I am, I hope you follow me. If you aren't, please follow me. I would love you to be along on this ride with us. Mostly what I do is I go live once a week, and then I also put out video content trying to explain it in these short bites so that it makes sense to everybody about psychology, about toxic relationships, and even I get into some about healthy relationships too. So I'm super thrilled that you guys are here and you're following me. But yeah, this new understanding is going to radicalize how I perceive this arena. The fact that we're making an error in feeling, and that too often we make huge excuses for these individuals. And the other thing is, it gets in the way of us spotting them when we meet them. There's another big, huge area of blindness. And I hope you guys keep track of me this way, because I plan to offer a live 10-week group coaching program it's called A New Powerful You. So I've got a title down. It's called A New Powerful You. And we're going to be talking about how to spot and avoid toxic situation in people, because there's a lot of like misinformation out there about it. You'll hear, how many of you guys have posted anything or even listened to anything that has to do with something that went wrong with somebody? And they'll come back and say, well, if you had just good boundaries, that would never have happened. I'm telling you, having good boundaries is not enough. Listening to your gut probably is not enough. Probably your gut is not always that accurate because you've learned not to listen to it. You also have, no one has ever taught you what it looks like when a person is being predatory. And I know I just did this video and I wish it had gone larger than it did, was about the difference of fear-based aggression and anger-based aggression from aggression based on desire. Again, this is out of George Simon's work. He talks about, there's a big difference when a cat's reacting to a dog, which is fear, or even anger. Could be sometimes angry if they know there's a good matchup. Say it's a Chihuahua and a cat going together, that might be out of anger. Or if it's a pit bull and a cat, it will be out of fear. It's obvious. That aggression is super obvious. That's what we assume we should see with predatory people who are dangerous, that they should look fearful, but they don't. They look more like what the cat does when it's sneaking up on a mouse. It's quiet and charming, and the mouse doesn't even know it's coming. I think back to when I met my ex. He is a sexual predator, full out. I told him to his face that he is. So I'm not telling you something he hasn't heard me say to him personally. And I'm no contact with him now. So I'm sure he's not listening to this, but if he ever does, he'll know I said this to him. I actually have a videotape. I have a videotape of him hitting on another woman. The way, and it's the same thing you see out of the 1950s, 60s in black and white films, when somebody is kind of a predatory male is moving on a female. Now, I'm not saying women don't do it. They do this. There is a female version of this as well, of females moving in on men. But the problem is we don't spot it. We think, oh, they like me. Oh, isn't that sweet? She's into me, or he's into me. We don't realize, no, he or she is hunting you. They have their eyes on you because you're a mark, and they are now moving in on you for these big reasons. They want either your money, they want access to whatever access that you have. They want something that you have. So we haven't learned as a culture to understand that charm, for example, is not a personality quality, it's a verb. It's not, oh, he's so charming or she's so charming. It's they're charming you. It's an active verb, and it's predatory. People who are charming you have a motive. They want something. That's why they're doing it. Now, maybe it's to make the sale. Maybe they're a great salesman and they want you to buy that new car or whatever, the jewelry in the jewelry store. But it's a motive, and they have the motive is to get something. It's some kind of transaction from you. But we think, oh, they're just a really like attractive person. Yeah, I'm sure they are an attractive person, but it's in pursuit of something. So I'm going to have a group coaching later this year that's 10 weeks long, and we're going to get into that. We're going to teach you how to spot it, how to protect yourself, what to do to get out of it. We'll practice these things. We'll actually get into it so that it's very skill building for you, so that you walk away in a better position, in a more how to protect yourself in a way that maybe right now you're struggling to. Because one of the things that really breaks my heart for all of us is how many of us are afraid to go back out there and do new things. We're struggling. I mean, I put that video out and you guys overwhelmingly responded to it. How many of you guys have agoraphobia on some level? You're struggling to go to new places. You're struggling to meet new people. You're struggling to get out of your house. You're certainly struggling to date. Many of you have told me, I'm never dating again. I think that's heartbreaking, because what to me, and I hope this comes across in the right way, is that that person still has power over you. What happened to you is affected you to the point that it's shut your world down, and it's limited your access to the rest of the world, because I think not just because of what happened with that person, but because you thought you made a good decision. You thought you could trust yourself. Only you found out that you made a bad decision, that you can't trust yourself. So now you're not making any decision because you don't want to make another bad decision. I know that's how I feel. I dated someone for 2 months at the end of the year. It's now over. weird breakup of the world, but I'm all right. I'm doing fine. And I feel pretty good about how I handled the whole thing. I was careful how I approached the whole thing. Oh, thank you so much for that big gift. I was pretty careful about how I handled it. But I'll tell you, getting out there and dating again is hard. It's very hard. Partly because there's a lot of crappy people out there, and I think a dating app seems to attract the worst. But it's also because we've really, somebody broke us in a big way, and we get scared what's going to happen again. We don't want it to happen again. So, okay, so I talked a lot today about attachment, about understanding maybe narcissism from a different direction. I now want to spend a little time and talk to you guys. I know you guys have been putting in a lot of comments. By the way, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I'm a retired psychologist these days, and I do mostly online like groups, and I have a club. So if you guys are interested in working with me directly, the best way to do that is to join the club at the higher level, because we do 4 hours a month of group off. We call them office hours. Really what we do is hang out and we talk about your problems. So if you're looking for direct access to me and more support from me, I really would urge you to think about joining Toxic Free Relationship Club. I also have a podcast which gives you really great information, and I do it with Tara Blair Ball. And her and I, it's called Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse. This year's lineup is amazing. We now have a regular special guest, which is Lisa Sunny. She's joining us at least once a month. We also have some great interviews lined up. We're going to be interviewing Dr. Robin Stern of The Gaslight Effect, talking to her about gaslighting. We're also going to be talking to Kate Anthony about divorce, high conflict divorces. And we'll be interviewing Brett McLowry, who has a large page here called Expatriate about male narcissistic abuse and why men are not getting more support. The club at the higher level, the first month is $50 and the subsequent months are $75. And before you start choking on that, please know that you're getting 4 hours of group coaching, which is valued at least $50 per time. In addition, you get all access to my online course, which is a $100 course. We also do book clubs together. Right now, we're wrapping up The Gift of Fear. And we also includes a 24/7 community chat with an amazing group of people. So you're getting all access to past webinars, meditations, breath work, all sorts of stuff, and direct access to chat with me anytime that you need it. All for $50 a month for the first month, $75 every month afterwards. Oh, Heather, I feel you. I want you to know that I understand that sense of shame as a psychologist. That's why I wrote the book Love You More. It's now available on TikTok through the TikTok shop. In fact, I got the sweetest card. I don't know if she's here, but one of the women who bought the book sent me this card and wrote me a personal note inside of it about thanking me for the book set. And she said it's been really, really helping her. So if you guys are looking for a real helpful set, it's called Breaking Free Book Set. You get 2. You get my story, Love You More, what happened to me, all the gory details. I don't hide anything about what happens. And then this is what I needed to be able to leave. This was the workbook. It's called First Steps to Living a Narcissist. It actually takes you through practical questions, so that helps you understand why you're stuck, what's going on, why you can't make better decisions, in the sense of because you're confused and being lied to. It helps you see through the lies, see through the deception, why you're being deceived. I know that I sat there for a year in agony trying to figure out what to do next, and I couldn't decide because I didn't know the truth, because I didn't know how to see the truth. So this book takes you step by step, incrementally from the start to finish, so that you can see the truth, so you can figure out the next best step for yourself. So if you're interested in that, it's called the Breaking Free Book Set. I'm about ready to put up a new product online. Both parts are not here yet. They'll be here next week, and I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's the 2 books, First Steps to Living a Narcissist and Thriving to Surviving to Thriving. So it's going to be these 2 books. Maybe I'll even throw in the Love You More. And then this is the book that you need if you're healing and you want to deal with your guilt, feeling like, how do you actually let go? You still feel confused about really actually what happened. All these different feeling sets. You're really angry about what happened and you don't know what to do with all this anger. The second book, Surviving to Thriving, was co-written with Lisa Sunny and I. And again, it has all this practical questions and examples and things to think about. Sorry, I know I keep hitting the microphone for you. I'm But it gives you all of that to help work through this so that you can practically move forward. And that will be in TikTok Shop next week. So that's my goal. And I'll figure out how the pricing of it and figure out, what's included. But I'm super, super excited about this new book set because it's the set that you need if you're out of a relationship and you're trying to heal and make sense of what happened. But yeah, I get where you're at, Stephanie. It was mortifying for me too. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I got into this relationship. I couldn't believe that I fell for it. I thought I could spot lies. I mean, I'd been in the office 20 years, seeing thousands of patients. I'd even worked at the psychiatric facility. I was in the inpatient unit for a while. So I worked with very ill people. I thought that, you know, and yet I didn't know what instrumental aggression looked like. That's what it's called. Instrumental aggression, which is aggression based on desire. They're hunting. I didn't know what it looked like. So that was, wow, blew my mind. So Mariel asked an interesting question. As far as attachment styles, what do you consider to be the style when a non-custodial parent becomes the kid's hero, even though they're not reliable? That's called a disorganized attachment. That I would think this is a child who hopes the parent's going to show up, but also and deep in the back of their mind knows that they won't. So they sort of have this off again, on again sense of trust with this person. So what they look like in adulthood is that whatever relationship they get into, they kind of hope that for the best, but they wait for the shoe to drop. And it's really kind of a miserable place to be. So yeah, that's what I would say. I bet or fearful avoidance, another way to understand it. Yeah, Summer, that's me too. T2. I hate to say I have a disorganized style of attachment. I was part of a research study for 2 years, and it was fascinating because I saw it. I saw myself in a move. It watched how I was relating to my parent. My father was deceased. It was my mom. How I was relating to a close friend. Now my husband had already died, so it was the 2 years of I was adjusting to the fact I just lost him. So I was also dating people at the time, and it was watching me with my relationship with my kids. And they gave me the results when the whole thing was over 2 years out. They allowed me to actually have access to the data they collected on me, and it was fascinating. So it was really I moved from I was secure to anxious to avoidant to secure. I mean, I moved all over the place depending on the person. Yeah, it was wild. It was wild being part of that part of that study. I wish I remember what university it was out of, but oh, Thumbelina, I'm so glad that you got the books. I just sent out 6 more orders yesterday that came in once they were got back in stock. I was out of stock for 3-4 weeks. That was miserable. I really upset about that. But now they're back in stock. Now I'm ordering them more fast, because I know that people want them. It was kind of like a trial and error, and then you guys overwhelmed me. I did a video that kind of showed you what you're getting, and then I sold them all out on that video. Like, oh no. And then Amazon, these are books I've written, so these are my own copies, and Amazon they don't treat it like they treat when you order from Amazon, you get it next day. When I order from Amazon for a book, it takes me 3 weeks. There's no rush on these books for me. So I had to pay a lot of shipping and I have to wait a long time. But the other cool thing is because they're my own books, I'm autographing them. So you get a personally autographed book from me when you do that. I'm going to have to wrap up here. I am sorry I went so late. Now I figured out how to go live everywhere. So I'm also now on Facebook Live. So I'm so thrilled, Facebook people, you guys are here joining me. You have been amazing to me, and the way you've been following me, all the talking that like Andrea is here, one of my top followers. I'm so thrilled that she's here. I've been getting to know you guys better, really listening to your comments. And I'm so excited to start to go live here on Facebook as well. So, and today I'm poor Instagram. I'm not an Instagram. I'm not done Rumble. I know my son says I should be on Rumble, but I've tried it, but it's a different place, and I don't really understand it very well. And Paul Gregory, I dear heart, I appreciate you, but I'm muting you because really we're not talking about these types of issues. So I care that you care about this. It's really great, but we really need to have the stop of the evangelizing here. So. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that, EE. Thank you so much for that. I'm glad you've been watching me. I'm here. For those of you who don't know, I'm here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Like today I was half an hour late, but my Facebook is the same as as YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, which is Kerry McAvoy, Ph.D. So you can follow me over there as well. It's all the same. And I'm getting to know it's, each group is a little different. So, but I'm getting to know you all and appreciate all of you who are been following me and getting to know me. Any last questions? Because I got to go to join my group. My club members are meeting in 7 minutes. So, any last questions? Do I still see clients? No, I'm retired these days. But what I am doing, thank you for that question. I appreciate it, Christina. One of the things that yeah, JJ, I may not be able to get into what to do with after you've had a really super bad one because I want to talk about something first and I probably won't have time, but I will be here next week as well. We're offering retreats. And those of you who may have been aware, Rising Strong is this next month. There is 3 spots left if you're interested in going. So it's going to be a 5-day retreat in Mexico, pampering, all about transformation, helping you build confidence in yourself. It's going to be really a fabulous experience. But I'm also offering 2 more retreats later this year. We've now set the dates and we're going to soon be announcing it, but I'm going to tell you guys about it for being here with me. The first is going to be for men only, a 3-day retreat in Orlando, Florida. I believe it's going to be for men only. It's going to allow you to go golfing if you want. It's going to be a cool location it's a private location where you have your own pool and there'll be all inclusive. So it includes meals and it will be about empowerment, how to begin to get better at spotting female narcissists, what to do if you're healing from a female narcissistic relationship, and how to be able to go out more confidently in yourself and who you are after that, becoming empowered. It's to be called Unleash Your Potential. And then we're also going to be offering a second women's retreat in October. Dates are through October 3rd through the 6th, again in Orlando, Florida. I'm super excited about this. It's called Strong and Unstoppable, and it's all about how to become more confident, walk through the world more confidently yourself, how to take your power back after you feel it's been stolen from you, and how to see where you're struggling with confidence so that you become more assertive, strong and unstoppable. And that will be in October. So the details on both will be coming out here in the next month, like prices, how to sign up. How to sign. Right now, I don't have any place to be able to find where you can go and learn about them. We're setting up the website pages for them right now. But there's Unleash Your Potential. If you're a man and is interested in Unleash Your Potential, please get a hold of me and let me know. I would love to. It's going to be a small group. We're going to have 17 men. And if you're a woman and you're interested in the Strong and Unstoppable, it's going to be October. Please DM me about that. And that will be the first weekend of October for 3 days. We're going to do an we're going to hook up with an equestrian center to do an equine therapy experience. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I did it once. It's with a horse. I'll tell you, it blew me away. And that will be a free part of that experience for women. It will include this. It's all inclusive, all meals included. It's going to be at a set location. So it's private with your own pool, right on site with 30 other women. It's going to be amazing. I'm super excited about it. Super excited. So if you guys are interested, DM me, let me know so that you can stay current when the web pages go up on it. You'll be the first to know about it. And I think we'll probably be offering some early bird discounts too for them. All right, I do need to wrap it up. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to have the Facebook group here with me today. Thank you for being here. TikTok, you guys are always amazing. I love you guys so much. And then YouTubers, you're fantastic. I really appreciate hanging out with you all as well. And I'm glad, I saw some new people talking to me today over here, like RW and RWD channel. I really appreciate you guys being here. So thank you so much. And I will be back here on Tuesday at 4 p.m. and we'll talk more about narcissism, healthy relationships, and how to stay strong and be strong. Big hugs to y'all. You know how much I love you. Bye-bye.